Welcome back, fellow dissidents. Today we have some very serious discussion. I know sometimes when discussing politics in this country, it can get rather facetious or hyperbolic, but the caste system that has been implemented and is coming in full force in New York City really cannot be played down. I mean, this is full-blown authoritarianism. It is an apartheid state. They are implementing a system that there's no other way to look at it other than it is making a certain individuals into second-class citizens. They are saying blatantly and openly that they are punishing unvaccinated people. They say that it's an empathetic move and get people to push them in the right direction. But there is no other way to say it but authoritarianism. Now, I know that the word fascist and fascism gets thrown around an awful lot in this country, but when you have big pharmaceutical companies that lobby our federal government, and now the government has teamed up with them and rid them of all liabilities, and now they make it mandatory that you must put this private company's product in your body, that is quite literally the definition of fascism. Okay, so now we have an apartheid state in New York City, and the progressive leftists love to talk about racism and that the system has rules and laws and edicts that are intentionally fashioned in a way to be systemically racist. Well, if you take a look at the data, the large portion of the country that hasn't been vaccinated are Black and Latinos. Okay, so who is going to be affected by this in New York City? It effectively makes them second-class citizens. Now, we have heard our own president saying that voter reform bills, which red states are implementing and conservative or Republican governors are pushing, which, it's the Democratic talking point that is just like Jim Crow, and Joe Biden has said this himself. But if you're being honest about actual politics in this country and the policy being implemented right now, this will be the most disparaging thing to happen to minorities in this country since Jim Crow. I mean, we're talking about folks, no matter what their race, if you choose to not be vaccinated for whatever your reason is, right? You talk to your doctor, okay, and some people's doctor will advocate against it. Okay, so what about these folks? What about young folks who have natural immunity because they had the virus, right? Right off top now, they are second-class citizens, and it's not trivial. People on the left want you to think that it's just an empathetic move that is necessary, or they downplay it. This is unprecedented in this country, and it sets an incredibly dystopian future. It is actually quite terrifying. I really hope that there is mass civil disobedience in New York City. Because, I mean, think about it. The most people affected by this virus are immunocompromised and elderly folks. And obviously, those go hand in hand, quite literally, like old people. As you get older, your immune system starts to break down. So there's obviously some overlap there. But those are the two most likely candidates for being hurt or dying from this virus, okay? And next to that is obesity. So what is the main thing that you could do to keep your immune system in check, right? Eat healthy and work out. So you can't even go to the gym now, right? We've got a literal fascist policy where the government is outsourcing their rules to private company. You have to take a private product by way of government, and then if you go to a private company who to see a show or to go to dinner or to go to the gym, those private corporations now have to implement this policy by way of government. This is the definition of fascism. I talked about fascism and being called a fascist for being a right winger, because I believe in capitalism. When it comes to economics, I am a right winger, but I always get called a fascist by leftists, and it's laughable, because my entire steez is to roll back the government. You cannot have fascism without without government. Excuse me. And now we have a dictator mayor implementing fascism in real time, and the left cheering for it. If there has ever been a time for people to stand up and mass civil disobedience, and in the most peaceful way possible, protest and boycott, there has to be, if you consider yourself a lover of this country, or a lover of freedom, or of liberty itself, this is the time to demonstrate that. I heard Dave Smith today on his podcast saying that he would take a right winger, a conservative or Republican, who will stand up to this authoritarian and dystopian policy before a libertarian who just makes excuses like whatever the case may be. We need this, more people need vaccinations, and blah blah blah. And I'm with him 100%. You cannot very well call yourself a libertarian and then agree with this dystopian policy. This sets an incredible precedent in this country, to where if this one flies, the slippery slope on this one is steep. It will go downhill incredibly fast. Now, not even just the fact that the governor Cuomo and Mayor Bill DeBlasio have been blood-soaked dictators this entire time. Cuomo implemented the policy where sick people went back to nursing homes and killed up to, or maybe even more than, 15,000 people. Okay, so let's just say that it was ignorance. They got it wrong, which I don't believe. I believe that Cuomo is a murderer. He's a psychopath, and so is Bill de Blasio. But let's say, just for the sake of arguing, right? Let's play devil's advocate. Let's say that they just got all these policies wrong, right? They are now, it's only a matter of time before the little piece of paper for your vaccination, the government will say, oh, well, it's too easy to fake that. So you have to use the app, because there is an app, and they're calling it the key to New York City. And the irony of this is just out of this world. Out of this world. The gaslighting from the Democrats and the leftists in this country is absolutely absurd to me. Right? So now there's going to be this app that has all these back doors to your healthcare. This is supposed to be a country where your medical decisions and your medical history is private. It is nobody. I don't care what. I don't give a damn what is happening in this country. Your medical history is nobody else's business. And people are saying that if you don't get vaccinated, you lack empathy, and all the left talking points, right? It has absolutely nothing to do with empathy. Nothing to do with it. I am empathetic to people who want to make their own decisions. It's like I said in my last or last few episodes. There are people that outright literally can't get it. Talk to your doctor. Your doctor will help you implement the right medication or avenue of medicine for you. But to think that the government has our best interest in mind is absolutely absurd after what we've seen. I live in Michigan, so my governor was one of the dictator governors who sent people back to nursing homes sick and killed thousands of folks as well. These are blood-soaked psychopaths. There's no other way around it. And now there's the left gaslighting all of us who want to make our own choices. And I've never even publicly stated whether or not I'm vaccinated, or whether or not I plan to get vaccinated, or whatever. That's nobody's business. But now we have a dictatorial government that has, in any semblance of freedom in this country. Like, that's the whole reason I'm a libertarian, because sure, I love the fact that this country birthed the idea that we should stand against our government and hold them accountable. That's the whole reason why I'm a libertarian, is because I believe we need less government and more individual liberty, right? And that only came about because of this country. Libertarianism would not be a thing had it not been for this country. But the idea that we are outsourcing our health sets a precedent that makes it so dystopian, George Orwell wouldn't be able to pen his own novels, because it would just be reality. And then on top of it, not only does this infringe on personal property rights and just basic individual rights. Say you want to go to see a ball game and a movie, you no longer can do that and where does it stop? Because they're literally saying right now that it's just one shot. As long as you have one jab, you can carry on as a first-class citizen. So that just shows that it's just, you're being penalized. Because we know a good portion of the country has had one shot but not went back for their second shot. And I believe it's the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that is only one shot, and it's not an mRNA vaccine. But not only is this infringing on just basic human liberties, but we have a president of the United States who just flipped the middle finger to the Supreme Court. It was already ruled unconstitutional for this moratorium, the stay on rent. It was unconstitutional. It was ruled in the Supreme Court that the CDC has no legislative power to be making these kind of decisions. But as federal bureaucrats in our country, they did it anyways. And it's been carried on this entire time. We are, we're heading towards feudalism and serfdom very, very quickly, and it's terrifying. If there was ever a time to speak out, right now is that time. And, I've seen this building up. This is why I started this, those 5-6 months ago. But things are getting incredibly serious. We have because every president in my lifetime has slowly upped the ante when it comes to setting the precedent of the amount of power the executive is allowed to have in this country as president. So they keep upping the ante. We take a little more individual civil liberties and we give it to the executive branch. And it just keeps on going. Well, now we have a president that says that if you own property and you rent it out, which is, as a libertarian, I see absolutely nothing wrong with this. Now, obviously, we see BlackRock coming in and buying up all this property at because they can take the hit. They can take the financial incentive. But that is what is heading towards feudalism. We've got our government outsourcing our money through the Federal Reserve to places like BlackRock, who are buying up all the property. And now they're saying that the people that do own property and are trying to at least pay their bills, they can't even do that. So eventually these people are going to lose their property to the banks. And now they're literally getting rid of the middle class, and the lower class is going to be absolutely dependent on government. It's like I'm not into conspiracies and such, because it has such a negative connotation. Now, conspiracy automatically conjures up this wild dream in people's brains, and they plaster you with epithets if you even talk about conspiracies. But if you know anything about our federal government and our government in general in this country, then you know a conspiracy is not out of the realm of possibility. But when it comes to like the crazy Q supporters and all that stuff, like, I don't buy into all that. I'm a very rational human being, and I will listen to an argument. But if something is debunked or it has a logical explanation, I listen to it. I'm not going to listen to things or advocate for things that I don't believe or that I can't myself learn about and advocate for in a principled position. This is why the left calls me a right-winger, and the right-wingers call me a leftist. You know? But it's like, we are at an incredibly scary point in our country where the president can just look the Supreme Court up and down and say, no, we don't care. We don't care. Full-blown authoritarianism. And it's like I said, I'm not into conspiracies, but this really, really has the air of a controlled collapse. It seems as though as the country economically goes up in flames and slowly burns to the ground, they do more and more slowly and steadily, as a government does, a tyrannical government. They implement these radical authoritarian policies slowly but surely. Because if they just go full-blown authoritarianism, people will revolt. They will. I mean, we've seen it through history. We've already seen, when they tried to, at a federal level, say that they wanted vaccine passports, there was a big pushback, and they walked it right back, right? So they know how far and how much they can get away with, but they are slowly pushing the boundaries, and the policies are just absolutely rabid and out of touch with reality. They're saying that unvaccinated folks are the reason for this, and they're going to implement radically authoritarian policies, and they will, in the same breath, say that they're not into open borders, but then just in this year alone, we've had 1.2 million illegal immigrants come in here, and there was a whistleblower who showed the Biden administration flying illegal immigrants from the border to different states, trafficking humans that aren't even legally here. Do I have anything against immigrants? Absolutely not. The fact that people want to flock here proves my point about this country. But the people who hop the line and come in illegally, especially at a time like this, that's my entire point. They're saying that they're in New York City, and Biden already tried to nationalize it, but in New York City, you will be a second-class citizen unless you are vaccinated. But if you're immigrating into the U.S. illegally, now they're saying we'll offer you the vaccination. Do you want it? Oh, you don't? Oh, okay, just go ahead and keep going then. So it seems like they're controlling the collapse, because they're already talking about lockdowns again because of this Delta variant, and now they're talking about a Delta Plus, and then Fauci was just fear-mongering about what comes after the Delta variant and how terrible it's going to be, but yet they're allowing people to come through untested and unvaccinated. Why would you do that unless you had some other arrangement of how you wanted things to go? Things are going seriously sideways in this country. And if you look, I know polls are fairly trivial and can be biased, and it's not the greatest data set. But if you go to civics and you look at their polls, it's incredibly hyper-partisan. It's incredibly hyper-partisan. I get along, obviously, with right-wingers more than I do leftists, just because of the fact of, the left inherently accepts socialism and communism. But as long as they're sane in the head, I can at least have a conversation with them. But the same thing on the right is we all at least believe in individualism. We believe that freedom should come first and foremost, because that's how you get safety and prosperity. And that's the thing about libertarianism, is we're not advocating for utopia. We understand the human condition, and we understand that individual responsibility and individual sovereignty are the answer to it. It's not going to eradicate murder and crime and drug use and such, but it will deplete the want for these things. less people will be in strife. There is no utopian vision. There is no equitable solution. We want equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. But even just saying that gets you labeled a fascist and a racist. Things have become so hyper-polarized, in large part due to corporate media and social media, because they feed you full of your own narrative, to where the right goes further right and the left goes further left. But it's not sustainable this way. And now we see that multiple Democratic politicians and anybody left of center at this point, I am drawing the line right here. The biggest distinction in this country is not left or right. It's not Democrat or Republican, progressive or conservative or libertarian or whatever. Those are not the important distinctions right now. The important distinction right now is who will stand for this and advocate for all these radical authoritarian policies, and who is going to stand up and say, no, we will not take this. This is not fair, and there is absolutely no constitutionality. Where they think they get this authority from is beyond me. If you take away the elderly people and the immunocompromised, there is no pandemic. That is just hard, cold facts. Sure, there is a pandemic. A lot of people have died, and it is sad. But we know enough now to where we can be especially safe around the immunocompromised, the elderly people, and try to help push the comorbidity people in the right direction, right? But the young people, and this thing hasn't even been passed by the FDA. It's emergency authorization. And all these powers that are supposedly had by these authoritarian governors and mayors and presidents are all emergency power. But they're taking advantage of it. And the distinction in this country is not left or right anymore. It's who is advocating for these authoritarian policies and who is advocating for no, this is absolutely wrong. This is what people are not understanding. A slippery slope, the analogy of a slippery slope is just that. Once you get onto that slippery slope, it's near impossible to come back. If people accept this in New York City, do you think it just stops with that one shot? No, they're already telling you it's punitive. It's a punishment. So that way you will go get their vaccine from a big pharma who leftists used to hate. 10 years ago, they hated big pharma. And now they're saying you have to use big pharma. Big government and big pharma was never the left. But now they have teamed up in a fascist cooperation. And it's so amazing the amount of gaslighting going on in this country right now. The leftists will, without even watching your content or hearing your side of the argument, will automatically call you a fascist while they implement fascism. The irony is just out of this world. This is the time to make the distinction. You know, I am a radical libertarian. You know, I am of the position that the only job for the government is to defend civil liberties and to defend the nation as a whole, military, but not to be exporting democracy and all this extra nonsense. I'm very, very close to being an anarchist. There's just some things that I don't believe can be privatized. But I am of the position that we need to get rid of the police and privatize it, because the market can decide which cops are worth a damn and which ones aren't. The market will weed out the bad ones. And I know there's a lot of conservatives and Republicans who have since signed on to my social medias and have joined my little brand and my community. Well, you know, I am absolutely grateful for that, 100%. But there are going to be a lot of radical ideas that I espouse that you're not going to agree with. But should we all stand together against this authoritarian nonsense and quit being hyperpartisan? I don't really give a damn what your politics are. We can argue about economics and healthcare later. We can argue about, police and private markets later. Sure, that is always important. The distinction of libertarian and, whatever else is always important to me. But what is most important is making sure that we have a future in this country. And the precedent that has been set, there is no future. It will no longer be a United States. It will be really, really bad. We need mass civil disobedience, peaceful civil disobedience. I'll stop with that. By all means, if you like this content, please share it with your friends. Just share this every chance you get. Just open your emails, send it to random people, whatever. Put it on social media, whatever the case is. Like, share, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.